Hey guys, John Rettinger here, and welcome to round one of a head-to-head comparison of arguably the two hottest smartphones out right now, AT&T's iPhone 3GS and Verizon Wireless's Blackberry Storm 2. This round is going to cover screen, it's going to cover scrolling, it's going to cover browser, it's going to cover cut, copy, and paste, and it's going to cover keyboard. Let's go ahead and get started with the screens. The screen on the iPhone 3GS is a capacitive screen. It doesn't have any sort of haptic feedback, and the screen doesn't do anything fancy other than just accept the input from your fingers. So what it does have is multi-touch capabilities, meaning you can pinch and zoom with two fingers. I'm sure you've seen with photos and pictures. When you put your finger on it, the screen doesn't move at all. It feels static when you click through. On the other hand, the Blackberry Storm 2 has a SurePress screen, which actually has 4 sensors in each corner, and as you click, you actually feel the screen go ahead and click through. It also has a capacitive screen, but it does not have multi-touch, so all your zooming is going to be done either through a series of taps or hitting proper zoom and zoom out buttons. Now, the SurePress is a very interesting implementation. I think that it was done perhaps a little bit poorly and hastily on the Storm 1, but on the Storm 2 it's a fantastic implementation. You get the impression of actually feeling like you're hitting a button, and you'll see how that comes into play when we discuss the keyboard. So I think that if you have to discuss sort of head-to-head and put these next to each other, it's going to come down to what you prefer, whether you want the multi-touch capabilities of the iPhone or whether you like the clicky pseudo-button feel of the Blackberry Storm 2. It's going to come down to personal preference. And before we get any further with this head-to-head comparison, let me preface this with saying that I am an iPhone user. I've used an iPhone since the first one came out, but I definitely see the merits of the Storm 2, so I'm going to try and keep this as impartial a comparison as possible. So next, let's cover scrolling. Scrolling on the Storm 1 was not necessarily the smoothest process. It didn't have the most advanced physics engine, so you flicked your finger to scroll through, it wouldn't keep going, it would stop at a finite amount. So let's see if that has been fixed on the Storm 2. We'll go into contacts, probably the best way to do that right here. And as you see now, when you scroll, it is quite smooth and keeps moving depending on how quickly you scroll. Very smooth and very easy to select. And as you put your finger over something, you can select it and then you push in to actually open it up. Take a look at the same contact screen on the iPhone 3GS. It is also sort of very smooth affair. It's a different looking menu system, but both go very quickly and nice and easy. This one's got to be a draw between the two. It's going to depend again on what you prefer. So next, let's check out browser. And a lot of people are going to want to use these, obviously, for their browsers. The Storm 2 is equipped with Wi-Fi, as is the iPhone 3GS. Both are 3G devices, the iPhone running on AT&T. It's HSDPA network, and the Storm 2 is running on Verizon's EVGO Rev-A 3G network. So let's test the browser speeds of both of these. So the first round of tests is going to be conducted over Wi-Fi, so we're going to see the speed over a pretty strong Wi-Fi network. We're going to load my YouTube page, youtube.com/John4Lakers. This has been loaded on both devices before, so to simulate visiting a page that you go to on a regular basis. Let's go ahead and try and hit go at the same time on both of these, which is harder than it looks. Okay, and both of them are off. Looks like the iPhone 3GS loaded a little bit quicker, but the Storm 2 stormed back, so to speak. And I think both are, the iPhone is is done now, and the Storm is just finishing up. So while the Storm is still finishing, let's talk about navigation and how the iPhone handles browsing. So you can scroll through with one finger, and you get a very smooth scrolling as you go through. You don't get that checkerboard pattern with the page loading. It's very quick. Zooming is accomplished via one of two ways. Either you can double tap, it'll zoom in on a particular area. You can double tap to zoom out, or you can use the multi-touch capabilities and take two fingers and zoom in anywhere you like. Both don't support Flash, and as of right now, neither have browsers that are going to support Flash. So you can see it's a relatively smooth, and I'd say elegant experience on the mobile Safari on the iPhone 3GS. Moving over to the Storm 2, if I scroll along, also I don't get that checkerboard pattern. It's got a very quick load speed, and the processor seems to be handling things nicely. If I want to zoom in, I can do it one of two ways. I can also double tap. And the screen flashed and zoomed in, and I did not have to actually click the screen in. It was just a quick double tap, and I can double tap again to zoom in a little bit more. Now, zooming is also done via these two magnifying glasses, either in or out. And you just sort of hit it and you zoom in or out. You don't have any multi-touch capabilities on the browser. You can move it around, but you're not going to be able to sort of pinch and zoom, unfortunately. I do wish that the Storm 2 had multi-touch capabilities. I think that's one area where the iPhone really shines. I think that this round definitely has to go to the iPhone. Although Storm 2 has a very capable browser, which does seem to be worlds better than what was found on the first Storm. So if browsing is of utmost importance to you, I think the iPhone is definitely going to be a better way to go. Let's go ahead and exit out of these. And let's continue with cut, copy, and paste. It was a big sticking point with the first iPhone that it didn't have cut, copy, and paste. And BlackBerry sort of always had it, but there's a new implementation that's in place with the Storm 2. So let me show you how both this works. I'm going to go ahead and open up Notes application on the iPhone. I'll go ahead and go into a new note here. So now I've got some text on an iPhone application. This will work in SMS, it'll work on a web page, it'll really work anywhere where there's text. If you want to cut, copy, and paste, you take one finger, select the text that you want, that little magnifying glass pops up, you let go, I can hit select, select all, or paste, let's select, and I get these two little blue bars that I can move along to select the text that I want. Once I have it selected, I can hit copy. If I want to paste it, you just select again, and you hit the paste button. Very quick and very easy. We'll move over here to the Blackberry Storm 2, and I'll show you how cut, copy, and paste works. For this, I'm going to open up a message, and here's a message from BlackBerry telling me about my registration. We'll use this one for demonstration purposes. So what you do here is you actually take two fingers and you click down on the device, and you get these two very similar looking notification icons, and you can move it around to just where you want. Hit the button down below, you can hit cut, and if I wanted to paste it, I would just hit the paste button. Same implementation, I go to where I want, and the icon on the left would be different. I'm actually surprised at how easy it is to cut, copy, and paste on the BlackBerry. That was something that was very difficult to do, and I think that they really put in a successful implementation of it. So I think that this is definitely a draw depending on which one you are going to prefer. So the next and final round of this head-to-head comparison are keyboards. Now both first generation devices had drawbacks to their keyboards. The iPhone first and actually second generation didn't have a landscape keyboard, and the Storm 1's keyboard was, well, if you ever used it, not very accurate. The sheer press technology that was there on the first generation wasn't very good. It only had one sensor in the middle, and you had to wait quite a while for the screen to recess and then come back up. And if you're trying to type numbers out or letters that were in the corners of the screen, you really weren't going to have any accuracy whatsoever. But that's been rectified on both devices, and let's see how it works. We're going to open up Notepad, and I'll open up a new note. Now again, I am an iPhone user, and I have been one for 3 years, so I'm probably going to be a little bit more proficient at the iPhone's keyboard than I am at the Storm's, but I will again keep this impartial. So I've got a portrait keyboard, which of course is simulated on the screen, and as I move my finger around, I can see what each character is. And if I turn the device, I get a landscape keyboard. So let's test the keyboard so you can see how well it works, and I'm just going to type very simply, this is a test. This is a test. Rotate it over. You can see that there are some errors, but the autocorrection feature fixed that. So I think that the keyboard on the iPhone is very quick and pretty easy to use. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Storm. And now with this new screen technology with the 4 sensors, see if it's more accurate to type on. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a new message. Okay, I've got a new email notification here, and I've got the sort of shirt press keyboard that you've seen on the Pearl and Pearl Flip. It's got 2 letters per key, and it does a sort of autocorrect functionality. It also will learn as you type. And as with the last generation device, if you turn it, you also get a full landscape keyboard. Now, if you move your finger over this, you don't get the letter that pops up, but you do get sort of a blue glow that lets you know where you are. And if you flip it back to the shirt type keyboard, you also get that same sort of blue glow. So let's do a test and see how this works. Let's test the landscape keyboard first. And in my review of the Storm 1, I really lamented about how poor I thought the keyboard was and almost unusable. Let's see if that's been fixed on the Storm 2. And again, I've only had this device for a few days, so your speed is definitely going to increase as you use it. Scanning my contacts. Hit the button on the side. I always do that. So let's try that again. So there we go. This is a test, and I did that with 100% accuracy, although it did have to correct, but the keyboard and the phone recognized what I wanted to say, and it came through very quick. And I typed just as fast as I have it on the iPhone that I've had it for 3 years. So I'm very happy to report that the keyboard on the Storm 2 has been fixed. If you were holding out for a Storm because you couldn't stand the keyboard on the first one, put your fears to rest. It is hundreds of times better on the 2nd generation device. Let's take a look at the shirt type keyboard. And I actually used to use a Pearl, and I was a fan of the keyboard, so let's try that out. So that was, again, still pretty quick, and for not being a Blackberry Storm user, I picked it up relatively easily, and I think that as I used it, I would only get faster. So keyboard to keyboard here, I'm almost inclined to give the keyboard to the Storm 2 because it's got the clicking feeling, you get the feeling of pressing a button. However, I am going to call it a draw because I like the fact that I know what letter I'm typing on the iPhone, how it pops up, and it gives me a little bit more accuracy. But this is very, very, very close, and it's going to come down to personal preference. But for those of you that, again, use the Storm 1, you're going to know that this is so much better than what you might be used to. So stick around. We're going to do future rounds. We're going to cover email functionality and a ton of other things. But I wanted to sort of give you an overview of how these 2 devices stacked up. And I think that they matched head-to-head very closely now, much closer than they did with the last generation of hardware. So that being the iPhone 3G and the Blackberry Storm 1. Hope you guys enjoyed. For exclusive content, be sure to check me out on Twitter, twitter.com/John4Lakers. And to learn more about Techno Buffalo, check out technobuffalo.com. Links to everything will be in the sidebar. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.